All right, let's talk right now to a member of the Senate. Joining me right now is South Dakota Senator Mike Round. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
On an incredible moment, Justice Kennedy's decision raising the stakes for the upcoming midterms, as I mentioned earlier, making this midterm election one of the most consequential in decades. Your thoughts on what you just heard from the president with regards to the impact on the Senate?
Well, it's huge to have a Senate that'll confirm conservative judges, but in this particular case, I think we'll have that job completed before the midterm elections are here.
You do?
I do.
How will that happen?
Well, to begin with, Justice Kennedy has announced his resignation. Leader McConnell has made it very clear that when the nomination is made by the president, and we don't expect it to be very long before that nomination is made, at that point, we'll take it up as soon as the Judiciary Committee has completed their work. We intend to vote this fall, and I cannot imagine a scenario in which we won't do that before the election time.
So you'll vote, but will you get Democratic support? And do you need Democratic support in order to actually get the president's nominee in place?
In this particular case with the Supreme Court, along with other judge positions, judicial positions, it now is only 51 votes in order to confirm. And so with that in mind, yeah, look, we've got the appropriate number of Republicans, but in this case, you may not get all Republicans. You may get a few Democrats. But I think the president was spot on when he said that he needed a Senate that would confirm conservative judges. There's more judges coming in the next couple of years. We've got one coming that will be completed this fall. And I think it'll put emphasis on the elections coming up, just how important the United States Senate is in this process.
And you think the president could get his nominee in place and approved for Justice Kennedy's replacement before the midterm elections?
Yes, I do.
That's incredible. Tell me some of the important cases that will be front and center, and what this justice will be set up for. I mean, we were just talking earlier about the abortion issue. Is that what comes to mind for you?
Well, Roe versus Wade is one that's been on the target line for years for a lot of us that believe very clearly that abortion is wrong. But I think there's been a lot of emphasis lately on that particular issue, but it's more than that. It's a matter of whether or not the laws that are in place today, when you interpret the laws, are you making new laws from the bench, or are you simply interpreting what the laws are? What we're looking for are judges who are more interested in interpreting what the law says, rather than suggesting that if they disagree with the law, that they can reinterpret the law in a different manner, actually legislating from the bench. What President Trump has made very clear is that he wants judges who will be interpreting the law, not creating new law. And I think this is going to be another example where conservatives have always followed the idea that judges, if you want to legislate, then get elected to the House and the Senate. But if you want to interpret it, if you want to be that interpreter that says, this is what the law says, and now we are going to lay out and differentiate if there's questions, then a conservative says we're going to look at what the law actually says. And I think that's the difference here is that in many cases our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, our Democrat colleagues, say, look, this is a living Constitution, and as times change, we can reinterpret what those words mean. And I think conservatives disagree with that.
So, right, they are trying to interpret it differently. You want to make sure that replacement is interpreting exactly what the Constitution was said to mean.
That's correct. And, look, it's a traditional battle that's gone on for years. It's a matter of where should the ability to legislate lie? Should it be with Congress, or should it be with the courts? And if you disagree with the law, do you change it by going to the court saying, look, I don't like the interpretation, I don't like what it says, isn't there a way that we can bend it? Whereas conservatives, for the most part, will say, look, if we don't like what the law says, then legislate new language, work it through the process. If you have conservative judges, they, in many cases, may not like the outcome of what they see, but they will tell you what the outcome is, and then it's up to Congress to fix the law.
All right. Well, this is really an incredible moment. You agree with me that this creates this president could, in turn, at the end of the day, become the most consequential president that we've seen in decades.
No question about it. This is the second choice that he will make to the United States Supreme Court. based upon the age and discussions that other Supreme Court justices have had, it's entirely possible that he could have either 3 or 4 justices that he nominates and that the Senate has the opportunity to confirm on the Supreme Court during his terms in office.
Senator, let me switch gears. I got to ask you about immigration. Obviously, another setback. A compromise bill failed in the House yesterday by an even larger margin than expected. I don't think anybody expected that to pass anyway. A vote on legislation in the Senate, though, not expected until after the 4th of July. Do you expect a deal on this issue before the midterms?
It's possible, but it's going to be unlikely. Look, the deal is it really is tied together with funding the border security system. We had 54 votes in the Senate several months ago for a proposal that would have fully funded and appropriated the money for $25 billion for the wall, but it also would have addressed the issue of the DACA kids. And it would have taken the first step in stopping chain migration because it would have stopped the DACA kids from sponsoring their parents to come into the country legally. And I think that was a step in the right direction. Senator King and I introduced that bill. We had bipartisan support. If we would have had, the White House decided within the 48 hours beforehand that they would prefer a different bill at the time, I think we can revisit that approach in the future, and we can not only secure the borders, but I think we can take the first steps in actually reforming an immigration system that is badly broken.
So, I mean, is this going to be an issue for the midterm elections for Republicans?
It is. I think Democrats are going to try to make what's going on the border right now an issue. I think they're going to take the issues out there right now because emotionally, what's happened where there's been families separated, I think that's going to be something that they're not going to walk away from. And at the same time, they have broad support. There isn't a single Republican senator that I've talked to that likes what's going on at the border right now with regard to the separation of families. And I think the president made the right move when he, by executive order, came back and said, we're going to change the executive branch policy. We're going to reunify these families and take a different direction. And I think that was the right move to make. But it will be a midterm election issue.
And real quick, the midterm elections, how much of an issue will this trade story be? The president is doubling down in terms of trade. People are wondering, you've got the China issue pushing back on the theft of IP and the forced transfer of technology, but then you've got the aluminum and steel tariffs. Different stories. People are worried about the aluminum and steel tariffs and understand what's going on in China. Where are you on this issue?
Well, number one, it's the response from China that's causing heartburn in the upper Midwest. They're the largest recipient of our soybean sales. As a matter of fact, they buy real close to about 25% of all soybean sales out of the United States, 60% of all the export on soybeans. In the upper Midwest, that's probably the largest crop we do, that and corn. And it's making a real impact. The market prices on corn and soybeans are down dramatically since March 1st, when the suggestion of tariffs was put in place. It's hurting Midwest producers. South Dakota alone has over $449 million in balance sheet losses right now since March 1st. But the president's got a lot of supporters out there. They're sticking with him. But time is of the essence. If they don't see something happening to where those markets start to move again, they're going to be very nervous come midterms. And
right.
I think that's something that the president's got to keep in mind. Time is very important. And there's a lot of these guys that they can't make it a whole year with real low prices on soybeans and corn that they produce.
Yeah, it feels like right now the markets are giving him a break and watching, thinking that he's in the middle of a negotiation. But you're right. As we approach the midterms, if we don't have solid certainty here, it's going to be an issue, certainly for business and the economy. Senator, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.